Like he was a good, solid prospect at the most important position. We felt like it got to a point where he was probably mispriced, relative to the draft. Really the acquisition cost was pretty light. And
look like Shiloh Sanders is making news in Cleveland, bruh. So word on the street, according to the fans, the Shedeur Sanders fans, is that Shiloh Sanders possibly could be making his way to Cleveland.
Something just shifted in the NFL, and you can feel it even if nobody wants to admit it yet. Because the moment Andrew Berry made that move, the reactions weren't normal. They weren't calm. They weren't measured. They were loud, emotional, and honestly a little panicked. And that tells you everything you need to know. Because when a front office move triggers that kind of response across the league, it's not just a signing, it's a statement. So let's get right into it. The Cleveland Browns bring in Shiloh Sanders, and instantly the narrative explodes. Oh, this is just about Shedeur Sanders. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because on the surface, it looks like a simple move. A young defensive back with upside, physicality, and a name that carries weight. But here's the part nobody is talking about. In the NFL, nothing is ever just simple.
You're going to get a penalty. In this situation, you got tossed. Now, even if you do rate the wrong, you do know when you get thrown out of the game, Ocho, you know that's like 20.
And Jason Lloyd didn't say it outright, but the tone around this move, it says everything. This wasn't random. This wasn't just filling a roster spot. This felt calculated. Because if you're Cleveland, you're not just thinking about today, you're thinking about what comes next. And what comes next might involve one of the most talked about quarterback prospects in football.
Wholly realistic that anyone they bring in will compete with Shedeur and Deshaun, and they rather it be a young player like he says down here.
Here's where it gets dangerous, when perception becomes reality. Because now the narrative has already been created. People are saying the Browns are setting the stage, that they're building a situation where Shedeur Sanders would feel comfortable stepping in, that they're quietly preparing for a future that looks very different from the present. And whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter anymore. The league is already reacting like it is. This is where young players usually make a mistake. They assume they can block out the noise. But the NFL doesn't work like that. When your name starts trending before you even enter the league, when analysts, fans, and even other players start connecting dots around you, that pressure becomes real. And for Shedeur, that pressure just went up another level.
Obviously, Shedeur has kind of grown up in the spotlight, but our expectation is for him to come in here and work and compete. Nothing's been promised. Nothing will be given.
Now let's break this down deeper, because the move itself deserves attention. Shiloh Sanders isn't just a headline name. He's physical, aggressive, and brings that edge you want in a secondary. He's shown flashes of being a playmaker, someone who can hit, disrupt, and change momentum. But he's also still developing. He's not a finished product. So when a team like Cleveland brings him in, it raises the question, what exactly are they prioritizing here? Here's the part nobody is talking about. Teams don't just evaluate talent, they evaluate ecosystems. They look at chemistry, comfort, familiarity. And if there's even a small chance that having Shiloh in the building makes Cleveland more attractive to Shedeur down the line, then suddenly this move takes on a completely different meaning. And that's why people are reacting the way they are, because they've seen this before. Not exactly like this, but similar patterns. Teams positioning themselves quietly, making moves that don't seem huge individually, but add up over time. And then, suddenly, when draft day comes, everything clicks into place.
Shiloh Sanders could be possibly joining the Browns. Now, I want to be the first one to tell you this. I ain't no credibility to any of this that he's going. It's just like conversation, barbershop talk.
Now zoom out for a second, because this isn't happening in a vacuum. Around the league, quarterback situations are shifting everywhere. The New York Jets are still dealing with uncertainty. The Atlanta Falcons are trying to define their future. The Chicago Bears have already made their move toward youth. And Cleveland? They're in that awkward middle ground again. Because let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Deshaun Watson is still there, still under contract, still expected to lead this team. But expectations and reality haven't exactly matched so far. Injuries, inconsistency, pressure, it hasn't been smooth. And that's where this whole situation starts to feel bigger than just one signing.
Shedeur's still there?
He ain't on our list. Kevin Stefanski, he ain't on our list. We already said this. We already evaluated everybody. No. And he's a two-time coach of the year.
Here's where it gets dangerous. If Cleveland is even thinking about the future at quarterback, that means doubt exists. And once doubt exists at that position, everything else starts to shift. Locker room energy changes, coaching decisions change, even how players prepare changes. Because now, whether they say it publicly or not, people start wondering what's next. Jason Lloyd has been around long enough to recognize these patterns. He doesn't jump to conclusions, but he reads the room. And the room right now, it feels like a team that's preparing for multiple outcomes at once. One where Watson bounces back and proves everyone wrong, and another where they need a new face of the franchise.
This is where young players usually make a mistake. They think opportunity will always be there. But in the NFL, timing is everything. If Shedeur enters the league at the right moment, with the right situation, with the right support system, he could explode. But if he steps into chaos, into uncertainty, into a team still figuring itself out, that's where careers get complicated.
Browns are not playing games. GM Andrew Berry is out on the market looking for trades. He's feeling frisky out there, and he is looking to make moves. And it appears there are 3 guys that Andrew Berry is shopping to get off of the team right
now. Let's talk about the reaction, because that's where the real story is. The word panic isn't being used lightly. Fans, analysts, even former players are looking at this move and asking questions. Why now? Why Shiloh? Why Cleveland? And more importantly, what does this mean for the bigger picture? Here's the part nobody is talking about. Sometimes the reaction tells you more than the move itself. If this was truly just a depth signing, nobody would care. But people care a lot, and that means they see something deeper happening here. Meanwhile, other teams are watching closely, because if Cleveland is positioning itself for a quarterback move, that affects the entire draft landscape. Teams like the Las Vegas Raiders or the Denver Broncos, who might also be in the market for a young QB, suddenly have to adjust their plans. And that's how one move can ripple across the league. This is where it gets dangerous, when strategy turns into a race. Because now, if multiple teams start eyeing the same quarterback, the pressure ramps up. Draft positions matter more, trades become more aggressive, and suddenly what looked like a calm offseason turns into chaos. And let's not ignore the legacy angle here, because this is where things really get serious. For Andrew Berry, every move from this point forward is part of his story. If this all works out, if Cleveland lands their next franchise quarterback and builds a contender, he looks like a genius. But if it doesn't, then every decision gets questioned. The same goes for the Sanders name. Shedeur Sanders isn't just another prospect. He carries expectations, attention, and a spotlight that doesn't turn off. And if he ends up in a situation that was partially shaped by moves like this, then his success or failure becomes part of a much bigger narrative. Here's the part nobody is talking about. This isn't just about football. It's about control, about shaping the future before it arrives, about trying to create an environment where success is more likely. And in a league as competitive as the NFL, that kind of thinking can either set you apart or completely backfire. So now we're left with the real question. Was this just a smart depth signing that people are overreacting to? Or is this the first step in a much bigger plan that Cleveland hasn't fully revealed yet? Because if it's the second option, then everything changes. The Browns aren't just building a roster, they're building a future. And that future might look very different from what people expect right now. And this is where I want to hear from you. Are the Browns playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers? Or are they overthinking this and creating unnecessary pressure before anything even happens? Because one thing is clear, the league is watching, the noise is getting louder, and whatever happens next is going to define more than just one season.